Someone's been shot, man.
Where at? Where?
You really want this on video?
I'll pull it. I'm mad enough to pull it.
On December 6th, 2021, police in Harris County, Texas, received a frantic 911 call from a concerned neighbor.
Harris County 911, what is the location of the emergency?
I'm in Glen Lock, and we heard a loud, like 3 pops, bang, bang, bang. So we went outside, and I looked, and I see somebody is laying on their back, and it looks like they've got blood on her chest and blood coming out of her mouth.
Officers rushed to the home on Rosedon Lane, unaware that they were about to walk into one of the most chilling crime scenes they had encountered in years. When police arrived, they immediately saw the woman lying motionless in the driveway. Standing only a few feet away from her was a man wearing nothing but a bathrobe.
My hands in the air. What else could I do?
Keep him in there. What's going on? Where's the weapon at? Where's the weapon?
I don't know.
Put your hands behind your back for me. Anybody else inside the residence?
No.
Officers quickly detained him and began asking questions, but the man, later identified as 60-year-old Carrie Birmingham, appeared heavily intoxicated. Instead of explaining what had happened, he repeatedly demanded another drink.
I need another drink. God damn it. No.
While one group of officers dealt with Carrie, investigators turned their attention to the victim. She was identified as 48-year-old Patricia Birmingham, Carrie's wife. 3 shotgun shells were found scattered in the driveway. 2 of them had struck the tires of a white Tesla parked nearby, while the 3rd shot had struck Patricia in the face, killing her almost instantly. At first, investigators briefly considered whether the shooting might have been accidental, but that possibility quickly disappeared once detectives discovered security camera footage from the neighborhood. The video showed Patricia running down the street while holding her phone, clearly trying to record something. Moments later, Carrie appeared behind her on camera, chasing her down the road. That discovery led detectives to something even more disturbing. Patricia hadn't just been recording video. She had been documenting the final moments of her life. Inside the garage, investigators eventually located her phone resting on top of several water bottles. There were visible bloodstains on the device, and forensic testing confirmed the blood belonged to Patricia. When detectives obtained a warrant to examine the phone, the recording revealed a horrifying picture of what had happened before the shooting.
She was skinny. Your grandmother was fat, and that's what you're going to know because you don't do a goddamn thing to take care of.
Oh my God, we're not going on the fat train now, are we?
Yeah, we're
Are we hopping on the fat train now? What the hell is wrong with you? How did you gain so much weight? You don't look healthy.
You don't even encourage me when I lose weight.
The audio captured a heated argument between Patricia and Carrie that had been escalating for nearly 30 minutes. At first, it sounded like a typical domestic dispute, with insults and accusations thrown back and forth. But as the conversation continued, the tension became much darker.
You've been doing that for a long time.
No, I haven't. I just felt like it was time for me to do it right now. Because you're threatening me and Olivia. Don't touch me. Do not touch me, Carrie Birmingham. I swear to God. Do not touch me. Don't touch me.
You pulled a knife on me.
You do not have the right to touch me. Yeah, go get your gun. Go get your gun, Karen.
Investigators would later learn that this may not have been the first time Carrie had threatened her with a firearm. Friends of Patricia later told police that he had pulled a gun during arguments in the past.
That's right.
Fine, I don't give a I really don't. Do what you gotta do. I don't care.
All I have to do is not kill him.
You're a f***ing alcoholic.
You know what? You know what? You called me being an alcoholic.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because you weren't an alcoholic before I met you.
Maybe I should just kill you right now.
Kill me.
Yeah.
Maybe you should. Do it. I'll be sitting right here.
During this final confrontation, the threats escalated even further. Carrie can be heard suggesting that maybe he should just kill her. Patricia, possibly believing he was bluffing or simply refusing to show fear, tells him to go ahead and do it. But investigators would later determine that Carrie had already made his decision. Eventually, Patricia stepped outside the house, still recording on her phone. She appeared to be trying to distance herself from him, walking down the street while filming. Neighborhood CCTV footage shows the same moment. Patricia attempting to get away while Carrie follows behind her in a bathrobe.
Hey, Reese, where'd you get that bag that I gave you? That Christmas bag. Where'd you get it? Huh?
You're embarrassing yourself. You done playing the stupid games?
Yeah.
Tie your shit up. Tie your shit up. Huh? What?
Last time we were
Huh? You really want this on video?
I'll pull it. I'm mad enough to just pull it.
Your neighbors are gonna see you pointing a gun at me.
At one point, she even warns him that the neighbors can see him pointing a gun at her, clearly hoping the possibility of witnesses might stop him. But it didn't. Moments later, Patricia's phone captured the final seconds of her life.
I'm ready to go. Grab the phone.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Okay. All right, goodbye, Reese. I'll see you. You gonna meet Jesus.
3 shots rang out. One struck Patricia in the face, killing her almost instantly. The other 2 shots were fired into the tires of her vehicle, destroying them so she wouldn't be able to escape.
Hope that was worth it. We're gonna worth it for you.
Investigators later determined that Carrie had deliberately checked the shotgun beforehand to ensure the safety was off and the weapon was ready to fire, a detail that strongly suggested the shooting was intentional. Even more disturbing was what happened immediately afterward. According to detectives, the recording captured Carrie lying down next to Patricia's body while she was dying, breathing heavily before eventually moving the phone into the garage.
It sounds like he lays down next to her, and you can hear heavy breathing, and then he moves the phone into the garage area.
Yeah. You crazy. Hope that was worth it. We're gonna worth it for you. Yeah. You crazy.
When investigators later tried to determine a motive, Carrie claimed he believed Patricia was having an affair. But detectives found no evidence that this accusation was true. Instead, the recordings and witness statements painted a picture of a relationship that had been deteriorating for years, fueled by alcohol, control, and repeated threats of violence. In March of 2024, the case finally went to trial. Carrie's defense team argued that the killing was a crime of passion caused by sudden emotional distress. In a controversial decision, the jury ultimately accepted that argument. Carrie Birmingham was sentenced to 10 years in prison, fined $5,000, and could become eligible for parole after serving just 5 years. For Patricia's family, and especially for the couple's daughter, Olivia, the verdict was devastating. Olivia later said that the day her mother died, she lost both of her parents. Because the man who pulled the trigger was no longer the father she once knew. But one thing about this case will never be forgotten. Patricia Birmingham knew she was in danger. And in the final moments of her life, she made sure the truth was recorded. And as shocking as that recording was, this next case you're about to see will show how social media can sometimes play a much darker role in violent crimes.
You pulled up, you recorded it, pulled the trigger, and then drove off.
We had 2 people call us and say that they saw a video on Snapchat of a white male by the name of Talon Lowry shot someone sitting on a bench.
Sir, someone's been shot, man.
When police in Gainesville, Georgia began receiving calls about a shooting that had allegedly been posted on Snapchat, they quickly realized this was not going to be a typical investigation. Several callers reported seeing a disturbing video circulating online that appeared to show a teenager pulling up to a gas station, filming a young man sitting outside, and then shooting him before driving away. If the video was authentic, it meant the suspect had not only committed murder, but had also chosen to document it and share it on social media. What officers didn't know yet was that the shooting was only the final act in a strange and escalating pattern of behavior that had already begun weeks earlier.
I just got punched really hard.
Okay, do you know who it was?
No.
It looks like he just wanted some fame out of it, a Snapchat fame or whatever it is.
2 weeks before the murder, on the evening of October 19th, 2017, police had been called to a Walmart in Gainesville after a woman reported being attacked inside the store. When officers arrived, they found the victim, a nursing student named Danielle, shaken and holding her head after being struck by a complete stranger.
Where'd the guy go? Did y'all see him? Or?
Nobody has actually seen where he went. Somebody said he went towards the shoe department.
So nobody knows really where he's at.
Looking around.
All right.
I looked in the store. It's a blonde-haired curly dude, white guy. No one saw him run out the front. I got one of our associates in the back look for each exit on the side. So if he's either still in here or he made a break.
All right. I'd say he probably ran out. Yeah. Hi there.
Hi.
I'm Officer Seabolt.
Hi.
You gonna make it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just my head.
You're what?
I just got punched really hard.
Okay. Do you know who it was?
No.
You don't know him?
No, not at all. And I don't know anybody that would punch me.
Okay.
I'm a nursing student.
Okay. Where were you when it happened?
Right here.
Right there?
Right this spot.
So he come around the corner and just...
I was kind of around the corner. He was walking like this. And then but he had his phone up like this. Like he was taking video.
So he didn't say anything or anything?
No,
he just
didn't say anything. And then he just all of a sudden went boom, really hard.
Danielle explained that she had been walking through the store when a young man approached the corner of the aisle with his phone held up as if he were filming something. Without warning, he suddenly swung his fist and punched her in the head as hard as he could. What made the situation even stranger was the way the attacker behaved afterward. He didn't yell, didn't threaten her, and didn't run away. Instead, he simply kept holding his phone up, as though the entire attack had been staged for the camera. Police reviewed Walmart's surveillance footage and saw a man matching Danielle's description walking through the aisle moments before she collapsed to the ground. At the time, investigators suspected the attack might have been part of a disturbing online trend known as the knockout game, where attackers would randomly punch strangers while filming the assault to post online.
Hi.
I think it's one of them, I don't know if y'all have seen the YouTube posts going around here lately where the people just walk up to a complete stranger and cold cock them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Evidently he got her good. Like, side of the head. She was coming down the aisle.
What investigators didn't realize yet was that the video had already appeared on Snapchat, posted by a 19-year-old named Talon Lowry. As police began looking deeper into Talon's social media activity, they discovered that the Walmart incident was far from the only strange video he had been posting.
What happened? Oh, my bad.
His account contained a series of clips that showed increasingly reckless behavior, including videos where he filmed himself littering, acting aggressively in public, and even threatening animals while recording the entire thing for attention online.
Get out of the way, you mother. I'll run every single one of your over, you fat black man.
The pattern suggested someone who was becoming more erratic and increasingly willing to push boundaries in order to get reactions from viewers. And then, on November 2nd, the situation escalated dramatically. That evening, several 911 calls came in reporting a shooting at a Texaco gas station along State Route 11.
We had 2 people call us and say that they saw a video on Snapchat of a white male by the name of Talon Lowry shot someone sitting on a bench at the Texaco at North Hall.
Someone's been shot, man.
Where at? Where?
We're at the Texaco on State Route 11.
State Route 11.
Hall County.
Texaco.
Yes, sir.
What else is near that Texaco?
There is No Pun Road.
Okay.
And Jim Hood Road.
No pun. Okay. Okay.
The dude videoed it on his phone. He was in a burgundy truck.
Okay. Is the guy who got shot still there?
Yes, sir. He's here. He's on the ground. I'm on the phone with him right now, ma'am.
All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He's on the ground right now.
All right. Now, what about the guy that left? What kind of vehicle did he leave in?
I don't know. He pulled up, he recorded it, pulled the trigger, and then drove off.
The victim was 18-year-old Brian Ramirez, an employee at the gas station who had been sitting on a wooden bench during his break when the truck pulled up. He had no warning and no reason to believe he was in danger. The shooter fired, captured the moment on video, and drove away. When officers arrived, Brian was still alive, but struggling to breathe as blood spread across the pavement beneath him.
What's your name?
Brian Ramirez.
Brian Ramirez. How old are you?
18.
18?
Yes.
Do you know the person that shot you?
I do not know.
Okay. Did you recognize the truck?
I did not.
Despite the severity of his injuries, he managed to answer a few questions from officers, telling them that he did not know the person who had shot him and had never seen the vehicle before. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital, but unfortunately the gunshot wound proved fatal. Brian Ramirez died shortly after. At the scene, investigators found Brian's glasses, name tag, and wallet scattered on the ground, all stained with blood from the attack. Around the same time, officers began receiving more calls from people who had seen the Snapchat video of the shooting, which meant the suspect had effectively documented the murder himself. Police quickly identified the person in the video as Talon Lowry. Within a short time, deputies located an address connected to him and began moving in to make an arrest.
We have a possible address off of Highway 17 on Peppermint Drive that our deputies are going to check out.
We're less than 5 minutes out. If you want to, you can go ahead and get in your vehicle and come on out of there. We got a lot of cars not to try to get up in that driveway.
Because witnesses had reported that Talon possessed an AK-47, officers approached the house cautiously, prepared for the possibility that he might still be armed. But when they arrived, Talon was taken into custody without resistance.
That's it. So the truck is there. Make sure that they know that he has an AK-47. So.
Tell them that he's got an AK-47, please, ma'am. Okay,
Do what?
we're letting them know.
Have they got him yet? Have they talked to him yet?
No, they just found the truck just now.
At North Hall County, I've got the Talon Lowry subject detained at this time.
Radius clear 2325.
Once he was detained, investigators began interviewing people who had known him growing up. Several former classmates described him as extremely quiet, socially isolated, and often behaving in ways that made others uncomfortable. Some believed he had been desperately seeking attention online, posting increasingly strange and disturbing videos in an attempt to get noticed.
I've never liked Talon. He's always just been weird. And it's not that because he's quiet, right? Because we hang out with a bunch of quiet people, but Talon's just always been too quiet.
Talon's always kind of a little weird or different than most people, but
What kind of other stuff has Talon put on his Snapchat before?
I think he was trying to seek out attention or something. Because I don't guess he really had any friends. None of my buddies, we never hung out with him no more like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he just didn't doing stupid stuff. He put a video on his story of him shooting a cow. Sure y'all seen that?
Mm-hmm.
Shot a cow.
When detectives finally sat down with Talon, they confronted him directly with the evidence they had already gathered. Surveillance cameras had captured his truck at the gas station. Phone records placed him at the location at the exact time of the shooting. and the Snapchat video itself showed him holding the gun. When asked whether he was the person in the video, Talon admitted that he was. Detectives then asked the question everyone wanted answered, whether he knew the man he had shot. His response was chilling. He didn't know him at all.
So what happened at the gas station?
You saw the video.
So that was you in the video?
Yeah.
With the gun? Now, did you have a reason to do that? Did you know who you were shooting at? When you shot the gun? What did you see happen?
Didn't fall down.
You saw somebody fall down? Did you know who he was? You didn't know who he was? So you just shot at him because you wanted to, or?
Brian Ramirez had simply been sitting there when Talon decided to pull the trigger. After Talon's arrest was reported in the media, Danielle, the Walmart victim, immediately recognized his face as the man who had attacked her weeks earlier. She later told investigators that during the assault, he had looked at her with what she described as a completely detached expression, almost as if he were studying her rather than interacting with another person. Investigators ultimately concluded that Talon Lowry's growing obsession with recording shocking content for social media had escalated into real-world violence. For the Walmart assault, he was charged with battery. For the murder of Brian Ramirez, he faced charges including malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime. Talon later pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity and was diagnosed with schizophrenia, but prosecutors argued that the evidence, including the videos he had recorded himself, clearly demonstrated that he understood what he was doing. In February of 2023, Talon Lowry was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. Today, he remains incarcerated at Augusta State Medical Prison. For the family of Brian Ramirez, the loss was devastating. A teenager who appeared to be chasing attention online had turned his phone into a tool for documenting violence, ultimately recording a senseless killing that would leave a permanent scar on everyone involved. Now, in this next case, the camera was rolling for a completely different reason, but it still ended up capturing the moment everything went wrong. In July of 2017, a disturbing video began circulating online that showed the final moments before a tragic car crash in Merced County, California. At first glance, the footage looked like nothing more than another teenager live streaming on social media, laughing and singing while driving with friends in the car. But within minutes, the video would capture something far more horrifying: the moment a careless decision behind the wheel turned into a deadly accident. The driver was 18-year-old Obdulia Sanchez, who had started broadcasting live on Instagram while driving through rural roads near Los Banos, California. Sitting beside her in the car was her 14-year-old sister, Jacqueline Sanchez, while another 14-year-old friend rode in the back seat. Like many social media live streams, the video began casually. Music was playing, the girls were laughing, and Obdulia appeared to be more focused on performing for the camera than on the road ahead. According to investigators later reviewing the footage, she could be seen dancing, singing, and glancing repeatedly at her phone while driving. But what viewers watching the live stream didn't realize at the time was that Obdulia was also driving under the influence. Authorities later determined that she had been drinking alcohol before getting behind the wheel. As the car continued down the road, the situation quickly spiraled out of control. At one point in the video, Obdulia appears to lose control of the vehicle, sending it veering off the road. The car rolled over, crashed through a barbed wire fence, and came to rest in a nearby field. Inside the car, the violent crash had devastating consequences. Jacqueline Sanchez, the 14-year-old sitting in the passenger seat, was not wearing a seatbelt. The impact of the crash proved fatal, and she died at the scene from her injuries. The other teenage passenger in the vehicle, also 14 years old, survived the crash but was severely injured. What happened next made the tragedy even more disturbing. the live stream never stopped. Instead of ending the broadcast and calling for help immediately, the video showed Obdulia climbing out of the wrecked car and continuing to film as she walked around the crash site. At one point, the footage showed her sister's body lying motionless on the ground. Viewers watching the live stream in real time were horrified.
You killed my sister, okay? I know I'm going to jail for life, alright? I understand that. This is the last thing I wanted to happen, okay? Alright? I don't care though, I'm gonna hold it down.
Many who saw it initially believed the video had to be fake, assuming it was some kind of cruel stunt or dark joke. But it quickly became clear that what they were seeing was real. In the moments after the crash, Obdulia could be heard speaking directly to the camera, crying and repeating that her sister was dead. She also appeared to blame herself, telling viewers that she had killed her own sister. By the time emergency responders arrived at the scene, Jacqueline had already died from her injuries. The video quickly spread across the internet, sparking outrage and grief as people struggled to understand how a live stream meant for entertainment had ended in such a tragic loss of life. Investigators soon confirmed that the video had been recorded and broadcast by Obdulia herself. Toxicology reports later showed that she had alcohol in her system, and authorities also determined that none of the passengers in the car had been wearing seatbelts, which likely worsened the outcome of the crash. The victim, Jacqueline Sanchez, had been only 14 years old. According to family members, she had been preparing to celebrate her quinceañera, a traditional coming-of-age celebration marking a young girl's 15th birthday, just weeks later. Instead of planning her party, her family was now planning her funeral. Obdulia Sanchez was arrested and charged with vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated, driving under the influence causing injury, and child endangerment for the injuries suffered by the other teenage passenger. The case went to trial the following year. In February 2018, a jury found Obdulia guilty on multiple charges related to the crash. Later that same year, a judge sentenced her to more than 6 years in state prison for the role she played in the deadly accident. For the Sanchez family, however, no sentence could undo what had already happened. A moment of reckless behavior, driving drunk, distracted by a phone, and live streaming for social media, had ended the life of a young girl who had her entire future ahead of her. And the video that captured those final minutes remains a chilling reminder of how quickly a normal moment can turn into something irreversible. Because for Jacqueline Sanchez, the last thing anyone would ever see of her life was a live stream meant for entertainment, a video that began with laughter and music and ended with tragedy. And that takes us to this next story that begins in a place where nothing seems dangerous at first.
चालू तो हो गई इधर का कैमरा रखना कैमरा दिखेगा तुम्हें इसके अंदर ठीक है
At first, the footage doesn't look alarming at all. A man is standing near the water while another person, who appears to be his friend, films him from nearby. Nothing about the opening moments suggests that what follows is going to end in tragedy. It seems casual, like he's testing it or just moving in without thinking much about the risk. His friend keeps filming, and for a few seconds it still doesn't look like anyone believes something serious is happening. But very quickly, the situation changes. It becomes more than clear that he is no longer in control. What may have started as a simple decision to step into the water suddenly turns into panic. His movements become more desperate, and it's obvious he is struggling to stay above the surface. And still, the camera keeps rolling. The person filming is close enough to witness every second of what is happening. Yet instead of immediately dropping the phone and trying to get help, he continues recording as the man fights to keep himself up.
अरे क्या हुआ? अरे कोई हेलो 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 और नाव लेके आना.
Of course, it's possible the person behind the camera didn't know how to swim and was afraid of going in himself. That does happen, and jumping into water to rescue someone can be dangerous, especially if the person drowning is panicking. But even if he couldn't physically save him, the footage still leaves behind many uncomfortable questions. Why wasn't there more urgency? Why wasn't there anyone on the beach who noticed the man was struggling? And why was there no immediate shouting, calling for help, or some attempt to do something before the man disappeared? Because by the time the reality of the situation seemed to fully hit, it was already too late. The man's struggle got weaker. His head began slipping lower and lower. Then, within moments, he vanished beneath the water. And that was it. No dramatic ending. No last-minute rescue. Just a person who walked into the water while his friend filmed and never came back out.
लड़का डूब गया. लड़का डूब गया. अरे भैया नाव लेके आना, लड़का डूब गया. अरे बचा लो ना, जल्दी आओ, लड़का डूब गया. ये डूब गया. लड़का डूब गया. नाव लेके आओ, नाव लेके आओ.
What makes clips like this so haunting is how ordinary they look at the beginning. There's no obvious warning, no sign that everyone involved understands how serious things are about to become. And maybe that's why accidents like this happen so often, because people don't always realize the danger until it has already gone too far. Sadly, this is only one example of the many similar drownings and water-related accidents that happen every year, often in situations where a person thinks they are safe right up until the moment they aren't. And that may be the hardest part to watch. Not just that a man died, but that his final moments were spent struggling in front of many people who could have done little more than stand there, film, and realize too late that what had started as nothing serious had turned into something irreversible. Now, while that incident began with a simple decision near the water, the next story started as one of the happiest days of someone's life. It was December 4th, 2016, and what was supposed to be the biggest celebration of a couple's life in São Paulo, Brazil, slowly turned into a tragedy no one could have imagined. 32-year-old Rosemary do Nascimento Silva and her fiancé, Udier Damasceno, had spent years building their life together, and according to friends and family, the two shared the kind of relationship people often describe as a fairy tale. Rosemary worked as a nurse, Udier was a locksmith, and in the months leading up to their wedding, the bride had poured enormous effort into planning a celebration she hoped would be unforgettable for everyone attending. But Rosemary had one final surprise prepared for the ceremony, a plan so carefully kept secret that only a few people close to her even knew it existed. Instead of arriving at the wedding venue by car like everyone expected, she intended to make a dramatic entrance by helicopter, descending near the ceremony and walking toward the altar while her guests watched in amazement. She had saved thousands of dollars to make the moment possible, and even her fiancé had no idea that the helicopter ride was part of the plan. On the afternoon of the wedding, shortly before the flight, Rosemary participated in a small photo session while still wearing her wedding dress, laughing with friends and posing for pictures as the final preparations were made. From the outside, everything looked perfect, exactly the kind of joyful anticipation people imagine when they think about a wedding day. Around 3:30 in the afternoon, the group finally boarded the aircraft, a Robinson R-44 helicopter that would take them from the departure point to the rural wedding venue located about 30 miles outside São Paulo. Inside the helicopter were 4 people: the pilot, Peterson Pinheiro, Rosemary herself, her brother Silvio, who was meant to walk her down the aisle, and her close friend Nella, who was 6 months pregnant and documenting the journey, so the couple would have footage of the surprise arrival. At the beginning of the flight, the mood inside the helicopter was cheerful. Rosemary appeared calm and excited. The photographer captured moments along the way, and the group talked casually as the aircraft headed toward the ceremony where the groom and dozens of guests were waiting. But one person on board was noticeably uneasy. Rosemary's brother Silvio had always been uncomfortable with flying, and as the helicopter continued its journey, he became increasingly nervous, gripping the side of the aircraft and holding onto his sister as the weather outside slowly began to change. What had started as a normal flight gradually turned more complicated as fog and rain began moving into the area, reducing visibility and forcing the pilot to rely more heavily on instruments instead of the visual references helicopter pilots normally depend on. Inside the cabin, the shift in conditions did not go unnoticed. Nella, the photographer, began asking the pilot questions about the flight, wanting to know whether he was navigating by GPS and whether he was confident about their location. The pilot answered calmly that he knew where they were and that he had flown in similar conditions before, but as the fog thickened and the helicopter pushed deeper into the clouds, the atmosphere inside the aircraft became noticeably more tense. Silvio's fear became even more obvious, and at one point, he could be heard quietly praying, clearly terrified as the aircraft continued flying through weather that was growing worse by the minute. Meanwhile, Rosemary remained remarkably composed, staying calm and focused despite the fact that the helicopter was now moving through dense fog, where the pilot could barely see the ground. Helicopter pilots rely heavily on visual orientation to maintain safe flight, and when thick fog removes those visual cues, it becomes dangerously easy to lose spatial awareness, a situation that can cause even experienced pilots to misjudge altitude or direction without realizing it. That appears to be exactly what happened next. As the helicopter continued descending through the fog, the pilot unknowingly brought the aircraft too low, eventually clipping the top of a tree just 1 mile away from the wedding venue where the ceremony was waiting to begin. The collision caused the helicopter to lose control and crash into the wooded area below, destroying the aircraft and killing everyone on board. Back at the wedding reception, guests had already begun to feel uneasy as time passed and the bride still hadn't arrived. What was supposed to be a dramatic surprise entrance had turned into a long and confusing delay, and eventually the owner of the venue, who was aware that a helicopter had been scheduled to arrive, received the first reports that something had gone terribly wrong. He pulled the groom aside and told him that a helicopter had crashed nearby, though at that moment no one yet knew whether there were survivors. Only a short time later, the devastating truth became clear. No one had survived the crash. Rosemary had died alongside her brother Silvio, the pilot Peterson Pinheiro, and her pregnant friend Nella, whose unborn child was also lost in the accident. What had begun as a joyful celebration ended in tragedy just minutes before the bride was meant to walk down the aisle toward the man waiting for her. Investigators later determined that the most likely cause of the crash was the severe weather conditions, including thick fog and rain, that dramatically reduced visibility during the flight. As the pilot attempted to navigate through the poor conditions, he descended too low while trying to regain visual reference with the ground, ultimately striking a tree and causing the helicopter to crash. The investigation also revealed additional concerns about the aircraft itself. The helicopter was licensed to carry only 3 passengers plus the pilot, yet 4 passengers had been on board, and the aircraft was not authorized for commercial passenger transport, raising further questions about the circumstances surrounding the flight. For the groom waiting at the altar, the moment that was supposed to mark the beginning of his new life instead became the moment he learned that the woman he loved was gone forever. And for many people who later watched the footage recorded inside the helicopter, the story remains one of the most haunting reminders of how quickly life can change. Because only minutes earlier, Rosemere had been smiling and laughing on her way to her wedding, completely unaware that the journey meant to deliver her to the happiest moment of her life would instead become her final one. Now that was all for today, folks. If you enjoyed these horrifying clips, click to see more on the video on screen.